Before we start, I think I'll ask Councillor Kevin Humphreys, he's the Deputy Lord Mayor of Dublin, to say a few words, as I think it makes much more sense for him to welcome you to the Mansion House than it does for me. So, Kevin, you might say a few words.
When somebody actually says to you, you have cancer, and the shock and the effect, and why we were swapping stories was 11 years ago, I was that trooper. You have to be open and say, yes, I have that, I'm that trooper. And you have a life, and you enjoy it, and you have good fun. And, and we're going to enjoy every minute of it. And that's why when I was given the diagnosis, that's why I approached it. What I'm trying to get across, and I don't know whether I'm doing it well, is it's not to stop living. Certainly when it was said to me, it was a time to start living, and I changed loads of things. Bone marrow cancer, is very, very difficult to deal with. And Brenda, Mary Kelly, getting that information out there, letting people know, and then saying, yes, we have cancer, we're in remission, we have a life, and we're going to enjoy it.
So on behalf of all of those involved in Myeloma Awareness Week, I want to thank all of you for coming to our launch. Our opportunities to come together as patients, family members, carers and medical personnel have been few and far between to date, so I think a day like this is always a very welcome event in the lives of myeloma patients and their families and carers, and indeed in the schedule of those who work with myeloma patients. And I suppose on a positive, looking around the room and counting up the years of the people I know who have been living with the disease, we have a lot of years of living with this awful disease notched up between us, and I think that's definitely something to celebrate here today.
One of the good news stories is that this is a cancer that the outlook has improved very substantially over the last few years, starting really in the recent history of it in the 90s with the development of autologous stem cell transplants, which improved the outlook, particularly for younger patients, because that treatment is generally only applied to the younger patients. And then more recently with the availability of a number of new drugs and then various ways of combining all these treatments, on which we have a lot more work to do. But it's already been shown in the last couple of years that, in the noughties, that the survival of patients with myeloma has substantially improved at all ages of presentation with this disease. And it is probably true to say that the overall outlook for myeloma the survival has doubled probably over the last 10 to 15 years because of these advances.
Brenda's asked me to say how I dealt with myeloma. While every family deals with it in a different way, and I think the people who probably have the worst time is the people who live with the patients of myeloma. So Brenda came down to see us then sometime in October, I think it was Halloween, and it was dark, of course, and I opened the door and I said, "Hello, yes." I thought it was somebody selling tickets because I didn't recognise, and she's a child, but I didn't recognise her. And I said to her, "Brenda, where's the rest of you?" Because when I saw her in the hospital, she was very big, and when I was looking at her that day, she was skin and bone. The road through life is very hard, and it's a very long one, and it's filled with the good and the bad, the ups and the downs, and there's sorrow and there's joy in it. But I know that if all of you that have myeloma have stout hearts, you will get to the end of that road. There's no doubt about that, if your hearts are strong enough and achieve what you set out to do. And it's your courage, I think, that'll take you down that road, and it'll be your guiding star that'll show you the way. So it's been a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen.
When Brenda contacted me about being here today, the only answer I could possibly think of is yes, because going through life, as Mick said, I think life can be quite tough. It has some straight roads, and then it has some very curvy roads, and then it has some very demanding hills. And how we get over those and overcome them, I think, forms us. And I suppose I sailed through my life a lot, maybe until my early 30s, and then a sister of mine got cancer. And I suppose what it does do, it stops you in your tracks. It makes you relook at your life. It certainly makes you reassess the important things in your life. So I feel privileged to be in a room. Hopefully many of you have myeloma, are coping with it, will overcome it. And myeloma is, I think, a cancer that isn't as well known as other cancers. In my own opinion, I do the breast cancer launch and stuff, and everybody's aware of that. That's why I think it's very important that somebody like if I'm asked by Brenda to try and make it more public and more well known, well, that's something I can do. I'll certainly make a commitment here tonight that I will manage to talk about myeloma between now and the next 6 months. Hear my words, I will do it. I'll get it in whenever I can.
It's been a busy year and a lot of foundations have been made to build on the awareness for the public, but also for the health professionals among us. The myeloma community in Ireland was united as a result of last year's Awareness Week, and the first step that was made was the formation of an expert group of individuals, consultants, nurses, scientists and others looking at how we can bring forward the care for the myeloma patients within Ireland. And certainly with the support of the Irish Cancer Society, Myeloma UK and the pharmaceutical industry, we can make huge developments in looking at the overall survival of patients, but also the quality of life of patients.
And so it's great when somebody comes along and says, I want to do this, I want to set up a website, I want to set up a support group, I want to see things happen. We're just delighted to work with them, and it's given us great pleasure to work with Brenda and with Mary. And it's also challenged us. It's challenged us to think about what do we need to improve and what do we need to change. Because myeloma is a less common cancer, and the Cancer Society has been focused a lot in recent times on the major cancers, the ones that we hear about. Miriam mentioned breast cancer earlier, prostate cancer, lung cancer and bowel cancer, because those are the numbers that are huge, thousands of people being diagnosed each year. And this year we'll see 30,000 people diagnosed with a cancer. It's huge and it's increasing every year. So when we get involved in trying to grow information and keep ourselves up to date, it's great that we have the support of groups, and it's great that we also have the support of the consultants and the nurses across Ireland.
The first thing, it's lovely to be here again on the first anniversary, and I see and recognise a number of friends and people in the audience. And one thing I do want to say straight away is anybody who's lived with myeloma as a patient or a person or a family member, it's extremely individual, it's extremely personal. And as you heard, there are good stories, very good stories, and sometimes not so good stories. But for certain in this country, in this area, when you hear so many negative things about the health service and so on, I can tell you that the doctors, the nurses involved throughout the country, and I mean that, in this disease, because it's relatively uncommon, banged their heads. We banged our heads together about 8 or 9 years ago. We agreed to work out informally what's called a network or an agreement of how people should be treated.